And so many racing thoughts coming from this experience. And then you mentioning Swanee and Jen Mark quoting Hollander, whom I knew, and
Yes.
Swanee. And I think in terms of a voice, the beginning of poetic reading taken seriously as a reflective practice began in the teaching of poetry for me, and trying to make the poetry that I love, beginning with the conversation poem, say, of Coleridge, and then moving on to Wordsworth, and moving on to Keats in particular, and trying to have students hear these poets as a continuum of the demotic, not as framed poetry, but to hear it as their language in the words of men, you know, that revolution that occurred in romantic poetry, and then moving from them, moving back into that deliberate Miltonic, you know, of man's first disobedience and the fruit of that forbidden tree, whose mortal taste brought death into the world and all our woe. And from that performance of Shakespeare, but to make it live in the ear was the point to me. And for them to take what was occurring in the ear and actually speak it and read it themselves. So they had a model in order to that continuum. And I always tell you, Shakespeare's dead. You're alive. When you read his poetry, you are reading William Shakespeare's voice. You are bringing him into the room, and he's living again. So I don't write in terms of rhyme, but I do try in prosodic terms to come to terms with the heritage. And I think going to Swanee and hearing Donald Justice read a more self-effacing writer you could not want. He did not project himself, but there was a quiet authority in his voice when he read. And the confidence was in the work. It was not in himself, it was in the work. And if I may be so bold to say, over the years, having come to know Alice Run and being at so many readings of her work and hearing her in her quietness let the poetry emerge out of the voice itself. And the poetry, it's the poetry that makes the voice, rather than, I think now, the poet who makes that voice. So I know an Alice Wyman poem, I can hear it. And I tend to move amongst a couple of modes, and I've got a couple of examples of each. And one is that very, I think that very short, the mode of brevity, if you want to call it that. And it's something that's so simple, it has to live or die in its own simplicity. My watch band breaks. Now I don't have to worry about before, after. And then something, a kind of conversational mode, I think, that as though you were speaking to someone sitting next to you. I had the good fortune to be in London when Tom Courtney did his play on Philip Larkin. And every word of the play was taken either from Larkin's poems or Larkin's, it was a one-man show, or Larkin's letters. And it was an absolutely amazing experience, made even more so because I was standing in line. It was the concessions line, where you get the cheaper tickets. And I had to go to the bathroom, and I asked the elderly lady in front of me to please hold my place, and she said, certainly. And I came back and opened a conversation, and it turned out that her first job, Larkin had hired her to work in the library at Hull, and she knew him. And she talked about how he opened up literature to the people who worked for him, how he encouraged them to read and to find solace in poetry and to find meaning in poetry. And that was, but to have that voice, that Larkin-esque voice, and to hear her quietly say these things, without any kind of grab, it was nice. This poem, well, my next door neighbor. Cross over to me, or shall I cross over to you? The wall of peonies between us, they are yours. You cultivated them over the years, those heavy globes. 3 have fallen onto my grass. Last night I cut them, put them in a vase, a cheap plastic imitation of cut glass. Handy. They smell of lemon, of sun, of love. When the woman who once owned this house went mad, she uprooted all the peonies. You are dying, slowly holding, tender yet tenacious, to the only thread you know. Today I shall cross over my unknown mess of a lawn to your tidy, looming world, where you, smaller and smaller, take final steps to your big bed, that gray ship, sails waiting for wind. And another style, if you will, is something I've learned from Rupert, as a matter of fact, is that sense of the flow, getting into the flow and just going, just letting, not worry, I mean, you can see, not worrying about line lengths or anything like that, just going. And this poem is called Ant Angst. There it is, staring at me from the laptop screen on MSN. Ant angst. How to cope if they are invading your house. And I remember E.O. Wilson saying to Terry Gross that ants are fascinating. Don't kill them, observe them. So I barricade the sugar, put foodstuffs away, and prepare to enjoy their terrific marches from somewhere behind the baseboard of the kitchen sink, along the counter in front of the wooden drain rack from Sweden, across the formica to the lip of the dying stove, one eye completely out, 2 with shorts, and 1 fully functioning. Yes, I have that kind of house. From the stove to complete a loop on the surface of the other formica counter and back again. To what purpose? They do this for months. My children come to dinner and are grossed out. It is not like they are eating ants. So I do nothing but put out little wells of ammonia in bottle tops and dribble lines of ammonia like beachheads, not touching the ants, but creating frontiers beyond which they cannot go. And I leave for 2 weeks in the mountains. When I return, they are gone. Sometimes I can't resist playing around with something I've been reading. I think one of the first poems I memorized was Sonnet 116, remember? When you memorized poetry in school? Let me not to the true minds, da 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 da. We were where? We were what we were, till death do us. Pant fast. Cast out we were, not upon the waters, from that garden, our deep digging, cultivating, blooming, breeding life, springing up and out, the life till death do. Let me not. Other deaths, other unhappies. How were we? How were we to know the star to every wanderer? And I do sometimes think in terms of not hammering everything home by the end of the poem. That's the tough thing. Tie the little bow, neat little package. And sometimes there's I just want to escape that. In Clover, National Geographic on the coffee table, CBS News at night, Saigon chic, Madame Nu. School is out, summer vacation, still spring, still promises to keep. The yard, all that clover, a push mower, Briggs and Stratton, 2-cycle, oily, seductive smell, gasoline. I'm a junior high, years from driving, 1963. Thick Quanduc, saffron robe, gasoline match, quick yellow flame, life, look, time. How many wars later? Clover, white or Dutch, trifolium rapins, lowly as in beneath the foot, prolific, as common in fields, meadows, roadsides, lawns, other moist places, relished by wild animals, domestic livestock, seeds taken by many birds, good for, chains, knotted green stem to white springy head, coronals, Maytime, wild strawberries. This morning early I stand an hour in the square. The sign says, war is not the answer. No one asks a question. Back home, pink clover, black ants and red, the queen of May not, may not. I am the coat of my own age. And I don't know how it is with you all. From teaching and reading and like the Joe Christmas, and you write to Faulkner because you read Faulkner.
Yes.
And you write to these people, their voices that you've heard for so long, so you write to them. And I can't help but think, I don't think John Cheever ever wrote a successful novel, but I think his short stories, oh, they shine. They shine. And I always think of The Swimmer and the end of The Swimmer. And because of the crisis, the economic crisis, I started thinking about what it was like to be foreclosed. And one of my fears is, what was it the Jodes, they said, they're on the road, Tom. They're on the road, having lost their home. Foreclosure. The house is silent for the last time. Our silence is leaving it. Here, this child was made. There, in that corner, something withered. See the places where the pictures were hung? We are like that, shadow of a shadow, soon painted over. The locks changed. And I want to close with a rose poem. Roses were much on my mind this summer. It was one of those summers, it was a wedding and 3 funerals kind of summer. And in the obituaries where they say, in lieu of flowers. This is the title of the poem, In Lieu of Flowers. Rose, close tight in your own embrace, you remind of what has gone before. Open to fullness, to the eros of your scent, you beckon what is to come. In you we glimpse the aggregate of angels we call the soul. I cannot keep this promise, what remains unnameable. I can only trust you, whatever you intend. You, the voice of our eternal city, call the messenger we carry within. To our dying hour, behind closed lids, we are bathed in you. Like the wave, you are your own release.